All right, in this video we are going through the social studies textbook, so go ahead and join me on page 102 in your social studies textbook. And you'll notice the map that I'm using here is a map of ancient Mesopotamia, which is the area of the world that we're talking about right now. So you can see down here Sumer, those ancient cities of Ur and Eridu, some of those different cities we've talked about. Later we'll be talking about Babylonia and Assyria, and you'll see here we have the Tigris and the Euphrates River that we talked about as well, and that we will be continuing to talk about, because this is where the Sumerians live, which is what we're going to be talking about today in southern Mesopotamia. All right, follow along on page 102. Let's get started. The year is 1933, and you're hard at work on an archaeological dig in Iraq. And Iraq is the country that is now where Mesopotamia used to be. Uncovering the remains of the ancient Sumerian city of Ur is exciting work, so you would be right here. So far, you and your team have found what seem to be royal tombs. You've identified beautiful headdresses of gold and jewels, golden cups, and even bones of people who once lived there. You wonder what the people's lives were like, what they thought about, how they dressed, and what they ate. You know that the artifacts you are finding may help answer these questions. And you can see there's a picture below of an actual archaeological dig site. Okay, turn the page to page 103 now. The emergence of cities. In southern Mesopotamia, Sumerian cities such as Ur, Kish, Uruk, and Eridu proved to be very successful. Economic surpluses allowed these and other cities to emerge as centers of culture and power. So what allowed them to emerge as centers of culture and power? They were able to become more powerful because of economic surpluses, which means they had more crops and more goods, whatever that may be, than they needed to survive. By 3000 BC, about 12 cities in Sumer had developed into the world's first city-states. In ancient times, a city-state included a walled city and the land around it, such as farmland. Each also had its own government. Inside clearly marked borders, most early city-states covered several square miles and had populations of about 5,000 people. Over time, some city-states grew to more than 1,500 square miles, with populations of as many as 60,000 people. Although each Sumerian city-state was independent, the people shared a common culture. They followed similar religious practices, spoke the Sumerian language, and developed a writing system. They also created buildings, arts, and crafts that were unique to Sumerian society. The Sumerians and earlier people of the region made achievements in technology as well. Many advances, such as irrigation, helped them produce economic surpluses. All of this led to the development of an early civilization in Sumer. Over time, this civilization would spread throughout Mesopotamia. Okay, so this early civilization spread throughout this area. Okay, turning the page, page 104, follow along, government and religion. The first political or government structure of each city-state was made up of a small group of leaders and a chief leader chosen by the group. Together they made laws, decided what work had to be done, and dealt with disputes over land or water rights. While some disputes were settled peacefully, others led to war. When faced with war, the different leaders who ruled a city-state could not always agree about what to do. It became clear that a single leader was needed. This led the Sumerians to form the world's first monarchy, or governing system ruled by a king or queen. In Sumerian city-states, the rulers were always kings. When a king died, his son became the new king. This change made Sumerian monarchies more stable than previous kinds of government. From a walled palace, the king governed firmly. He had complete authority or power over religion, the economy, and everyday life. The king appointed officials to carry out his orders, often concerning economic surpluses and building projects. Below the king, priests were the most important people in society. Sumerians practiced polytheism, the belief in many gods. They believed that each natural event had its own god, and that one god protected each different city-state. A temple was built in the center of the city-state to worship that god. At temples, the priests held ceremonies to please the gods, especially those connected to agriculture. This religious structure was central to life. Turning the page to page 105, follow along. A commercial society. The cities of Sumer buzzed with activity. Their economic structures were based on economic surpluses. The ability to create surpluses led to new kinds of jobs, to the production of new goods, and to trade. Surpluses of crops enabled some Sumerians to perform work other than farming. In each city, some people became craft workers, metal workers, and builders. Finding raw materials for these workers was not always easy. Neither metals nor trees could be found in Sumer. To get raw materials, the city-states exported agricultural surpluses, such as grains and dates. In exchange, the Sumerians imported metals, wood, and other resources. So what that paragraph is saying is they had plenty of crops in this area, but they didn't have enough trees and metal to build with, so they would go elsewhere and trade their extra crops with areas that had plenty of wood by way of trees or plenty of metal. Okay, continuing on page 105. Sumerians depended on long-distance trade. Groups of traders traveled together on long journeys. These caravans carried trade goods by donkeys throughout the Fertile Crescent and beyond. Later, traders used sailboats to carry goods on waterways to distant places. By 2300 BC, Sumerian trade extended from Egypt and the eastern Mediterranean to perhaps as far as the Indus Valley in what is now Pakistan. The Sumerians needed a way to keep track of what they traded. They began to use clay tokens to record trade. Later, they recorded such information on clay tablets. Okay, now I'm looking at the box, a closer look on page 105, caravan. Caravans traveled between settlements to supply them with needed goods. 1. Traders in caravans mainly used donkeys to carry their goods. Camels were used later. 2. Most people in caravans walked beside their animals instead of riding them because the donkeys were loaded down with goods. 3. Caravans left one place to travel to the next. And then our question, why is it a good idea for traders to travel together in groups? So just ponder that question in your head. Why do you think it was smart for them to go in groups rather than one by one? All right, thanks for watching, and continue on your social studies assignment.